Hey guys, so we're doing this lecture on photos for social media. This is a pretty important part of what I would like everyone to take away from the course, just based on how impactful this is on social media and generally like the underappreciation of the different concepts here. Um, so photos are obviously important. This is a lot of this comes from the fact that the human brain is built to process visual information, and of all the different formats, photography has a special place in our brain. What we see from kind of research is that adding any type of visual element to a social post makes it 40 times more likely to get shared. Image posts are a lot more easy to create than video posts. It is true that video posts get better engagement on some platforms depending on the circumstance, but it is still, photo posts still overwhelmingly show better data, more preference in the algorithm, better reactions from users. So just one stat is, posts with an image receive 94% more views on average. That's pretty typical on all platforms. 90% of the most popular social posts include an image. So I think that should be pretty telling. If you look at a top 50 list of social posts, a lot of those will include an image. Visual content on social media is more likely to be shared and remembered than non-visual content. That's a pretty key fact here. Um, so, end up looking at the science on all this. 90% of the information transmitted to the brain is visual. So, when we compare text content to image content, we process images 60,000 times faster than we do a text message. Um, so we also make judgments very quickly, and this kind of goes back into the personal branding side. Humans can be very judgmental, for better or for worse. We like things that look good. We have a preference for what is aesthetically pleasing, and this can be seen in symmetry, color combinations, proportions. A lot of times this goes into people, and so when we look at engagement specifically, photography that has clear and bright lighting tends to perform better. Social profiles with high quality photography receive more favorable associations. So good aesthetics affects engagement. 80% of users find well-lit photos more attractive and engaging. Adobe's research indicates that high quality images with vibrant colors will boost engagement up to 45%. And that sort of stat will tend to vary depending on where you get that from. Photography for commerce is crucial. It is the single most important factor in purchase decisions. What's kind of interesting is that the photos of a product will have more of an impact on purchase than the actual product description. So regardless of what you say it is, or whatever sentence you put in there, the photos are going to have overwhelmingly a much bigger impact. So that's kind of something interesting to think about. Um, Photos for brands, it's very important for the quality of the photo to reflect the product. Adding a photo for a post, for example, will boost memory recollection by 65% compared to 10% for a text-only post. Um, there's also this factor of authenticity that needs to be balanced in all of this. 71% of consumers prefer ads that feel personal and real, and that's kind of a broader visual trend. So, balancing that with what is personal and real versus what is low quality, that's really going to be up to who is taking the photos to determine that. But personal and real does not mean a low quality photo. I think that's just a really important takeaway to get from that. So again, there's this contradiction here that we need to, kind of sterilize with all this data. So consumer preference has shown that authenticity is important for content. And generic corporate messaging is perceived as insincere. That's just kind of everywhere. Aversion to advertising and all of that. Um, so the perception of authenticity is subjective. It does not mean low quality visual elements or any less aesthetic value. Good content is going to be measured by performance and engagement data. And if you really want to test that and put it to the metal, you need to do a side by side analysis. But the data so far says that consumers demand authenticity in addition to the demand that they demonstrate from engagement, which is they prefer high quality photos. So you can look at this as kind of an additional requirement from consumers on top of what we already know from just general behavior data. So consumer preferences, let's just cruise through this list. So authenticity, so just every generation, specifically like Gen Z, younger users are really heavy on this. 90% of consumers say authenticity is important when deciding which brands they like and support. And so this also extends to visual content. So what a consumer does and what they say in the survey is different. So, that's just something to keep in mind. Every consumer will say this and still strut into Walmart or just another, giant corporate store without any values that align with their own and still continue to shop. So again, it's consumer preference does not necessarily equate to a need. User-generated content, so a lot of data behind this. Consumers like seeing content by other consumers. And that perception of realness, authenticity. 56% of consumers are more likely to buy a product after seeing it in a relatable or authentic photo. So that can be seen in a number of different places. Influencer photos, so 83% of consumers believe that influencers who create authentic, engaging content are more effective than those producing highly polished content. So that's an interesting stat. So consumers want authenticity at the same time. Consumers who generate low quality photos influencers who generate low quality photos or really do not create content at the level of their peers, which is produced stylized content, they do not get engagement. So we need to balance these authenticity stats with reality a bit. Excessive photo editing. So this is an interesting one that is more common on consumers. So 68% of women and 53% of men feel negatively about seeing overly edited photos as it sets unrealistic and unattainable standards. So this is a visible trend. So kind of the Madison Avenue photos, like the highly stylized photos are falling a bit out of vogue. At the same time, this is very common among just consumers in general, excessive photo editing on their own photos, much to their detriment. We'll chat about that in a second here. Photo quality. So photo quality, unequivocally, this is a critical investment for brands and businesses. Across ad campaigns, photos consistently yield the highest engagement rates. So, and we've talked about how the human brain is built for processing, and the data shows us that photos have a preferred status among all the image types. For digital shopping, 56% of users start by exploring images even before reading product titles or descriptions. That's one of a number of stats that suggest that images are at the core of consumer decisions for individual purchases, at least in a digital commerce environment. High quality creative, 2.5 times more effective than low quality creative. Another stat on visual appearance, the key factor. Specifically for e-commerce, 67% of consumers consider clear, detailed images to be more important than product information in itself. Again, in a repeat of our previous stat, you cannot go wrong with investing in photo quality, and failing to do so, which small businesses particularly have a habit of doing, that will have consequences and missed opportunities. So people. So what we need to understand is that people are very judgmental, and how we look, how we appear to other people is based on our digital photos. And so this is something that a lot of the time we don't spend too much time on. In marketing psychology doesn't go deep into this. Uh, and so there's just kind of an interesting and growing field of data that suggests just really how impactful that photos of people are in our individual relationships, and just how our kind of digital environment is impacted by our photos. So first impressions is really interesting research on how people will make judgments and create character traits like trustworthiness within a few seconds of meeting someone. And for us in this class, this really the overwhelming takeaway is to invest in your photos, to be conscious of the photos that you are taking of yourself. On LinkedIn, for example, profiles with professional and high quality photos receive 14 times more views. So if you want to invest in a professional photo, that's great. If you want to not do that, then you just don't have that opportunity. And we can kind of kick and drag and not want to accept these or ignore them, but they're impactful. And that's all this is really saying. Um, so engagement is and photos is really interesting. So feed algorithms actually prioritize photos of people and faces, and we know from just social feed data, photos of people and photos of faces perform better than any other type of photo. And so it's just something that we humans are have built in as a feature. We gravitate to photos of people and faces. But now we see that the actual platforms themselves, like they've known this for a long time, and now they're just stacking the feed algorithm to automatically give those photos more preference. So, for better or for worse, Instagram photos with faces perform 38% better for engagement. You might have noticed that with your own personal photos on Instagram or whatnot. Selfies as well, being personal and relatable, often receive more positive reactions in terms of likes and comments. However, that is a double-edged sword. We'll talk about that in a second. Selfies are just not, paradoxically, it's just a bad way to take a photo of yourself. Emotions. So images with what we could consider genuine positive facial expressions are more likely to elicit trust and empathy. Um, what's kind of interesting is that not only do these photos get positive reactions, but we also transmit these emotions. It's kind of this is an interesting psychology thing. Like we transmit happiness from our photo of happiness and joy. We create that emotion in somebody else, where they are now expressing that emotion on their social feed. Um, and so I don't know what that saying is. Happiness is toxic, or I think there's probably a better way to say that. But it's an interesting aspect in human psychology with all of this. So selfies actually make up a significant portion of photo uploads on Instagram, especially Snapchat. Uh, Here's the deal: they distort your facial features, and they are not an accurate representation of what you look like. There's also a whole load of mental health issues that come with excessive selfie taking, self-objectifying, narcissistic behavior. 90% of young women report using a filter, editing their photos before posting them on social media. That's a lot. And so only 29% of people, just general like population, would post a picture without editing it first. So that means is that only 2/3 of people will edit their photo first. Um, so dating apps is kind of interesting. I wanted to throw this in here because what we see from marketing research is, or actually a lot of academic research, is that the behavior on dating apps and kind of the unique circumstances and interaction opportunities are very good ways to look at behavior, and we find the same behavior patterns everywhere else. So it's basically an interesting way to get data that is applicable in other places. Um, so a few things that we need to kind of take notice from here. So high quality photos receive 90% more likes than their lower quality counterparts. So that should be kind of an obvious with the narrative of this presentation. Photos with a genuine smile that is showing your teeth increases messages by 40%. That's an interesting one. Using selfies on dating profiles results in less matches and profile interactions. So, let's compare that with the other selfie data. Yes, selfies are pictures of us, and they're nice, but also easy to take. They're kind of a low value commodity in the realm of social media photos. And obviously, users who include a full body photo receive 200 plus more messages, and that's kind of a funny stat, but more along the lines of authenticity and photos that people believe portray what is really you. Um, Most important stat, data across multiple apps shows negative effects from overly edited photos. So there's a ton of apps, especially Facetune. Do not use Facetune. Tell your friends to stop using Facetune. Facetune is what Facetune lets you do, for example, is just blur out your face, use these destructive photo editing techniques to maybe for you in that moment to make yourself feel like you're making yourself look better, but what you're really editing or you're creating is a photo that to everyone else is very clearly edited and does not elicit a positive reaction from the majority of consumers. So and authenticity, when you try to smudge and blur out your photo to look better, it's not going to it's not going to be the best option for you in terms of the actual outcome. So just taking better photos. So photography is a art and a science. So there's both of those to consider. Some of this is also just giving yourself more opportunities to take photos if you're thinking of your own personal social feed. Um, so smartphones have made some pretty incredible advancements for photography, but professional cameras still have a big advantage in things like sensor size, the lens that actually takes the photo, manual controls. But for the majority of people, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to invest a whole load of money into professional photo equipment or doing a photo shoot when you have a smartphone that can do the same thing for much less effort. Smartphones are good because we can just take them anywhere and snap a quick photo, job is done. What phones also have is a computational sort of algorithm that most phones have now, which cameras do not. There's also AI capabilities. There's real-time scene and object recognition. Apple has built a lot of really interesting features in the phones. The camera makers know this. They are scared in some ways, and they are adapting their business model. But at the same time, there are things that the cameras cannot do. When you have a professional photographer take a photo, when you use a camera, it's going to come out better in some respects. For example, professional photos or photos taken with a professional camera are rated 70% higher in quality. So there's just a real perception difference there in what a camera can do. Um, so let's just look at the different types of photography. in what you're going to come across in your workday or professional life. So portrait photography. So if you want to get someone to take a professional picture of you on LinkedIn, this is going to be portrait photography. This can be done in studio or anywhere. Lifestyle photography. So lifestyle photography is a big deal for consumer brands. When a brand needs to mix up the type of content they have, put their product in different sorts of environments, that's going to be lifestyle photography. And then product photography is really important one. So just any pictures of the actual product. So, sitting on a table, sitting on a white background. This is a, mainstay and of e-commerce images. And it is something that can be done, with a smartphone as well, but you're going to be better off just using a professional camera. And then we also have these other types. We don't need to go through sports, fashion, street, event, fine art, macro, and you can get very deep into the different types of photography. But for our purposes, you're probably going to be dealing with portrait, lifestyle, and product. So um, let's talk about the things that are impactful in photos. So out of everything else, lighting has the biggest impact. Lighting will illuminate the subject. Lighting defines the shadows, defines the actual colors we see. 85% of photographers believe that lighting has the biggest impact on the photo more than anything else. And then there's composition. So composition is the arrangement of visual elements of the photograph. And there are some rules that are meant to be broken. And composition is one of them. You can, focus the object that you're taking a picture of to the left, to the right, to the center. There's, some balance that you need to achieve there, but and it's not a hard rule as lighting is. Lighting, like if you have bad lighting, it's gonna be very hard for you to Photoshop that out. So natural light, when you do not have professional lighting equipment, in many cases you will not. If you're just taking pictures on your smartphone, you're not going to have professional lighting equipment. You have to use natural light. Natural light is abundant, but you need to pay attention to when and where you're getting natural light from. And there's certain times of the day that will get you better photos. Ambient lighting is a great option. For example, like natural light from outside through a window. So rule of thirds. So, and this is kind of an interesting, composition rule. Like you might need to study this a little bit to understand this. But when you look at this chart, this is where the percentage of people will focus their eye on. So 41% of people are going to go to the top left, and 25% of people to the bottom left, and so on. This is a fundamental rule that a lot of photographers use. If you are trying to improve your own personal photography, if you're looking at ways to be creative with your professional photography, this is something you should understand and try to implement the best you can. So camera lenses. Camera lenses are very important for specifically for people photography. I mean, if you're taking a picture of a building, you're not going to see that big of an impact. There's a big difference in what a super telephoto lens and a wide angle lens does. Just a few examples for lenses. So 50 millimeters. So this is basically the human eye. This is, as close as you can get to what a human eye would take. 85 millimeters, 135 millimeters, 200 millimeters. So these are the lenses that you should choose if you are taking photos of people and faces. 85, 50 and 85 are very popular. If you really want to maximize your investment, go for 135. The photographer happens to have that. It's an expensive lens, or 200 millimeter. 200 millimeter will give you the most flattering possible view of your face. And that's a blunt statement, but I think a lot of photographers will agree on that. It's common for wedding photographers. They often use 200 millimeter lenses. The catch is that you have to take a photo from very far away. Um, when you when you look at what a smartphone lens does and what a professional lens does, you need to understand that a smartphone lens will distort your facial features. And so this is the reason why selfies uh, create issues. We can see that there's a whole range of mental health issues we see young women have now, and there's just endless studies coming out with all the issues that come from excessive selfie taking, excessive social media use. Well, here's the deal: smartphones take really bad pictures of you, and that exacerbates whatever else you're dealing with. So if you look on the far right in this chart here, so that is a smartphone lens. So smartphone lenses are wide angle lenses. They are going to take photos like this. A portrait lens is taken from far away and it represents what you actually look like. If you're using a smartphone and you have to, take a photo, at least take some steps backwards. Like 5 to 7 feet would be a good minimum to take a picture of another person. Otherwise, you're not only going to get distortion from the lens, you're also going to get distortion from just being too close to the subject. A few best practices for photography. So golden hour. So this is shortly after sunrise or before sunset. Not applicable if it's cloudy. It's a great time to take a photo. This creates this sort of soft, natural, diffused light. It's very flattering. Photographers love this. Natural poses. So candid photos do very well. And authenticity is a winner for social media. Just you doing stuff, looking natural, A plus. Depth of field. So this is probably more achievable with a professional camera. iPhones and modern phones also have this to a degree, but kind of that bokeh blurry effect that creates nice photos. So if you're trying to set up a photo shoot, natural light, always a winner. Outdoor settings are great. Urban settings, and this is probably more for a professional photography or moments where you have professional camera available. Urban settings are great. You need to pay attention to the lighting. Beach and waterfront, very popular, but keep in mind that lighting is good and bad. You do not want the sun glaring your face. That creates kind of bad illumination. Lighting is the most impactful element in photography, and it can also be for worse. The most negative element in your photo. Indoor spaces are good. Public spaces, if they're well lit. Again, just consider lighting and realistically what is going to work for you if you're kind of setting up a photo. Photo studios, this is a place where you can control the lighting. You control the whole setup. You're probably going to have to pay for this in addition to a photographer. You can also buy your own lights. You really need a wide open space to be successful with that, but you can't get better than having a photo studio at your disposal for taking high quality pictures. So smiling. So there is a most authentic smile per se, the Duchenne smile. So science has shown that people will kind of react to this smile much more than they will with other smiles, and we just perceive this to be more real and authentic and a sincere display of emotion. So what makes this authentic? So we kind of get these signals from the crow's feet on the face, the cheeks are lifted up, the corners of our mouth are raised. And you can achieve this in some ways by just doing practice. Smiling is hard, from celebrities. It takes some work. You can try to giggle. There's also this kind of squinching technique. But most importantly, just practice. If you want to smile better, if you want to smile better for photos, you need to be comfortable and be able to do this yourself on command. unfortunately, as harsh as that may sound. Better posing, so head forward. That's a great way to kind of illuminate your face in some ways. It elongates your neck and sharpens your jawline. Weight distribution, so that's a big one with photo shoots. People often look very. Alrighty, back here is part two. I got cut off here with Google Slides. So, oh, we'll go back. So weight distribution, yeah, this is something where a lot of photographers deal with kind of awkward, weird poses from their subjects. So just adding some elegance to your stance and making yourself look a bit more natural will be helped when you add some weight onto your back leg. Um, Leaning your waist forward can be very helpful. Arm positioning. There's 45-degree angles in kind of how you position your body. And there's some slides in one of the modules that will show this a little bit better, but you should also not be afraid to experiment, just moving your body, just trying different poses is going to help you and the photographer just understand out of how different things look, and your perception of what weight distribution means is probably different, and it takes some experimentation for you to really understand and be able to demonstrate that in a photo. Candid photos work very well. And so this can be something where you're just coordinating with a friend and trying to take some photos of you doing stuff. Candid photos receive 25% more engagement compared to pose photos. They're also 40% more effective in triggering what is called memory recall. Kind of interesting stat with all of this. So, wedding photographers and casual photographers. So each year, people are asking for 20% more planned candid photos. So this is a visible consumer trend. People love seeing candid photos. It's just they're hard to get unless you start planning for it, and of course there is demand for this. So if you want a great photo that people will enjoy, schedule a planned photo with your friends or a photographer. Photo editing. So photo editing is very common. 72% of consumers edit their photos for posting them. Just overall, I mean, we looked at 90% for like young women. That stat will vary tremendously. There are ethical concerns around this, so influencers especially are getting the short end of the stick on this. Um, and the biggest concern is editing your photo to the degree where it's just not a realistic representation of you. But editing to improve lighting, to just improve the quality of photo, there's nothing wrong with that. And so lighting and brightness, contrast, highlights, shadows, these are all things that can be easily tweaked. A lot of the photo apps now do this automatically. You press a couple of buttons and boom, you have a much better photo than what you started with. Colors can be adjusted as well. There's different tools that allow for color grading. The filters on Instagram do this to a degree. You should not use the filters on Instagram because they're destructive and not a very good way of editing photos, I suppose you can say. Retouching is very common for professional photography. Just changing different elements of the photo, cleaning up things that you don't want in there, small things, but while still preserving kind of the natural look of the photo. As an amateur photographer, you should probably focus on the lighting and leave the colors and retouching to a professional. Different photo editing tools. So Photoshop, for a time, this was the most popular tool. And to some extent, this is still very popular with photo editing, but by and large, oh, I see. I'm sorry, I totally did not have the labels right on this slide here. Well, by and large, Lightroom is more popular now, and this is the preferred photo editing tool of choice. for most photographers. You can also get yourself a Lightroom subscription, pretty cheap on your phone. If you want your photos to be nicer, it's probably worth the 20 or 30 bucks that Lightroom is going to cost you. It's very automated. It's very efficient. There's also cloud storage. For everyone else, VSCO is great. This is a favorite tool, especially a younger generation. Snapseed, if nothing else, this might be your best choice. This is a popular tool for just casual photographers. There's a lot of photo editing capabilities, and Google, as usual, has some like AI stuff in there that the other tools do not. So hiring a photographer, if you have the budget for it, then go for it. If you want to just have your friend take a photo of yourself for LinkedIn, you can do that as well. Just be mindful of the setting, lighting, all the things that we discussed with what could make a good photo, a bad photo, or bad photo, a good photo, just things to consider. You can find a cheap photographer, on Craigslist, any place. There is the you get what you pay for aspect to this. If you get somebody who doesn't have much experience or equipment, you're taking a risk, but there's plenty of photographers out there that do not charge exorbitant rates that might be more accessible for your budget. And so that's it. An important set of slides. We need to understand where photos stand and how much impact that has on a social post, and the different effects that the quality of a photo will have on the actual engagement of a post. All right, thanks, guys. Have a good rest of your week. Bye bye.